Good morning, everybody. This is Charles with the Exodus Logistics Learning Centers that features dispatcher one-on-one training for beginners, as well as the freight broker one-on-one training for beginners. Tonight, we're having our members basic level dispatcher one-on-one training for beginners. It's Wednesday. Today is the 24th of February, 2021. Our trainings are 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So this is for members only. Last night, and which I want to talk about, last night we had our freight broker one-on-one training for beginners, our basic and entry level training. We had, essentially it was a Q&A session. We had kind of a hodgepodge of guests and people in there. Some people who were not brokers at all, who were curious about being freight brokers, had some questions, people who just started their brokerage and are at the point of getting customers and accounts. And then we had people who's had their brokerage for a minute. So different questions. And then I posed some questions too. So it was very interesting. One of the main questions is, as a freight broker trainer, you want to know if your members or people who are enrolled in your course really know the definition of a freight broker. What is a freight broker in layman's terms? What do you do as a freight broker, right? And we have different answers. The most generic answer we received was the freight broker arranges for the transportation of freight, right? That is the bottom line foundational definition of a freight broker. Someone also said a logistics provider, which you are. You provide logistical services to your customers through your other customers who are the carriers. But essentially, you arrange the transportation and the movement of freight. You do not own the freight and you do not own the trucks. You are the middle person in that process. So that's essentially what a freight broker does. And then I posed some questions to make people kind of consider freight brokering if they really want to get into it, or to actually think about it if they already are involved in brokering. What makes you as a freight broker different than most? So if you are listening in on this, and this will be on YouTube and then on social media platforms, as a freight broker or as someone who is aspiring to be a freight broker, what makes you different as a freight broker than most freight brokers? What is going to separate you as a broker or as someone who arranges for the transportation or the movement of freight different than most other brokers who do the same thing that you're doing? What do you want to do to stand out from the crowd? Okay. And like customer service, satisfying the customer, carriers, and things like that. Those are some of the generic answers you will see. And then once you discover and realize what makes you different than most, what are the advantages of being different? What is the advantages of being different as a freight broker? Once you discover your differences, what are the advantages of that? And once you discover the first one, the answer to the second question will be a little bit easier for you. Define consistency in freight brokering. So if you are a logistics provider, if you are someone who arranges for the transportation of freight or the movement of freight, what is consistency in brokering? Define that. And then also your technology. What is your technology that's going to be involved? Your back-end infrastructure of your company, as opposed to your front-end customer-facing concepts that you want to give to your accounts, your customers, as well as the carrier. So these are some high-level questions that you can consider as a broker or consider as someone who is considering being a broker. So, and then other things we went over, we answered some basic questions. Well, how do you vet out agents? Like if you are a broker and you've gotten to the point where you have an overwhelming enough accounts where you cannot handle them on your own, then you decide to bring on agents, freight broker agents. When you do that, what is your internal processes and procedures to qualify those agents to work for your brokerage? Do they handle financials? Are they the account managers? If they get the accounts as agents, how do you lay that out for your brokerage? So we go into some details about that. We talked about some nevers, like never share to the carrier, like never tell the carrier what the shipper is paying you, right? There are two nevers in freight brokering, right? So you never share with the carrier what the shipper is paying you or your customer. And you never share with the customer what you are paying your carrier, right? So none of their business, right? As long as you, as the broker, satisfy your customer, get that account, get the freight under that account moved via the carrier, what business of it is it to the shipper, the amount that you paid to the carrier, right? As long as you move that freight and you invoice your customer for the rate, the target rate that you guys agreed upon, what difference does it make the amount that you pay the carrier, right? Now, of course, you're going to pay your carrier a fair market competitive rate because you want to keep that carrier or that trucking company, depends on the volume of the loads that you get from your shipper. You want to keep that carrier happy or that trucking company happy, right? And the same with the shipper side. You're not telling the carrier how much to ship. Why would you, as a broker, why would you tell your carrier how much the broker or the customer is paying you for that load? You're giving the advantage to the carrier, right? So these are like two kind of obvious nevers that we discussed. We went into a little bit of detail and broke down why. So, and then we went over some of our back office concepts. We went over, someone asked a question about the two agreements that you would have as a broker, right? You have a broker shipper agreement that you have with your customer to get the account, to get the loads, to get the freight, to get the cargo. And then you have the broker carrier agreement to onboard approved carriers if you do not have assets already. If you're not an asset-based brokerage, then you need approved carriers. And then what is your process to approve those carriers? What is your vetting process? What is your procedure to bring in on carriers? What are the qualifiers, right? And the disqualifiers for that matter, because you want to get quality carriers to move freight for your customers, to keep your customers happy and to keep the carriers happy. So you're like a pendulum swinging back and forth, satisfying your accounts and your customers, at the same time satisfying your carriers, because they ultimately are the ones that's going to move the freight for your customers. So you are a true middle person in that relationship, okay? So we went over those, we answered questions, people asked some very specific questions. Everyone seemed to be happy with the outcome of the Q&A last night. If you are someone who is interested in starting a freight brokerage, if you know very little, if anything, about what a broker is, the transportation industry, the movement of freight, modes of transportation, whether it be rail, train, air, sea, and land, look us up, give us a call, 757-515-1684. My name is Charles. You can email me also at Exodus Logistics LLC at yahoo.com and call me at area code 757-515-1684. We offer a freight broker 101 training for beginners course. We also offer a one-day seminar, freight broker 101 seminar. If you go to the website, www.exodus dispatching and training, you can come onto the Freight Broker 101 page and get all the content here. Now, from FB or Freight Broker 101 orientation down, you will not have access because you are not an enrolled member. But the first three links, the Zoom link, the one-day seminar, and the ongoing training, you have access to. You can join our YouTube channel, our Facebook page for Freight Broker 101, our YouTube channel for Freight Broker 101 training for beginners, our LinkedIn handle, Twitter, and Instagram. So we communicate across all of those social media streams to help give you detailed content about beginning a freight brokerage. Some people even ask questions about the qualifiers to become a freight broker. You can go on Google and YouTube and look that up, but you want to have a broken down concept if you really do not understand it. The requirements as far as getting an authority, a broker of proper authority, a broker of property authority, excuse me, a bond, whether it's a surety bond or a trust fund in the amount of $75,000. The surety bond, of course, is based off credit. The trust fund, if you have the $75,000 in escrow or something like that. A process server or process agent, and the form for that is the BOC3, UCR, and insurance. The type of insurance as most brokers are looking into nowadays because of it's becoming gradually a requirement of shippers, of customers, contingent cargo, general liability, E&O, which is errors and omissions. Those are some examples of insurance types for brokers. And then your back office infrastructure. What type of load board software are you using? What type of TMS system are you using? Is everything integrated and seamless, or is it starting off as new brokers? You have a financial challenge, so you may have to start doing things manually until you get to a point where you build up enough revenue to gradually integrate and do plugins and update your software to make it streamlined. So we talk about those things. Talk about the difference between a freight broker and a broker agent, the workflow, working capital, the 4 R's, customers, getting customers, talking to customers, how to deal with customers, how to get past the gatekeeper, the packet types, we go over that in detail. Approved carriers versus asset-based carriers, what's the difference? Booking loads, from the time you get an approved quote or a shipper gives you a target rate lane already established without quoting it, what are your next steps? What is your steps when you talk to a shipper, potentially on the phone or in person or via email or text even, and they like what they hear, and they say, okay, I need you to quote a lane for me. What are your next steps? What do you say next? So do you know, right? The workflow of booking a load, from the time you get that tender to the time that load is delivered and that BOL or bill of lading is signed and turns into a POD. What is the process, all the intermovable parts in between that? The different TMS systems and their functions and features. And then we have tools and resources in our back office, documents, forms that you can work with. And all of our trainings are recorded in our training videos library. So we have a plethora of information. It's an ongoing training. You could be enrolled into it for up to 1 year. You may not need it that long, but at least you have the opportunity to refer back to it over and over again for reference points, getting new tools and resources as we add to and take away from the back office portal as we see fit that is going to benefit our members. Okay, so give us a call, 757-515-1684, or go to the website, www.exodusdispatchingandtraining.com, or send me an email at exoduslogisticsllc@yahoo.com. And all of that will be in the description in the bottom of this video. So again, last night, Q&A, free Q&A, freight broker training for beginners was an excellent event last night. We had a good turnout, good content, good conversation. Everybody was happy. So I'm satisfied with that. All right, guys. If you're interested, I'll talk to you soon. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you.